The first few minutes that can change the direction of your life. There is a moment each day that most people overlook. A moment so ordinary that it seems insignificant, yet it has the power to profoundly influence how you see opportunities, face challenges, and build your future. That moment happens the instant you open your eyes. Before worries appear. Before the news floods your mind. Before the world begins competing for your attention. It is in this brief window that many highly accomplished people learn to practice a discipline that transformed not only their results but also the way they lived. For many years, Napoleon Hill studied men and women who achieved extraordinary success. They came from different backgrounds, worked in different professions, and faced entirely different hardships. Some started with nothing. Others lost everything before rebuilding their lives. Yet there was one principle that appeared repeatedly in the lives of these remarkable individuals. They refused to let their circumstances determine how they would begin their day. Instead, they deliberately chose what would become the first nourishment for their minds. That single decision made all the difference. The human mind has an extraordinary characteristic. It naturally searches for evidence that confirms what it already believes to be true. When someone wakes up focused only on problems, limitations, and fear, they spend the rest of the day finding reasons to reinforce those very beliefs. But when the first decision of the morning is to feed the mind with hope, purpose, and direction, something begins to change quietly. The difficulties are still there. The challenges do not disappear overnight. Yet the way you face them changes completely. That is why the scriptures teach that transformation comes through the renewing of the mind. This is not merely a spiritual message. It is also an incredibly practical principle. No lasting transformation begins in your bank account. No lasting transformation begins in your career. No lasting transformation begins with your circumstances. Every genuine transformation begins within. First, your way of thinking changes. Then your decisions begin to change. Next, your habits begin to change. And as a result, your life starts producing different outcomes. Unfortunately, most people follow the opposite path. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone. They consume negative news. They compare their lives to everyone else's. They think about unpaid bills. They replay yesterday's arguments. Before they even get out of bed, they have already surrendered their peace to events that have not even happened yet. Without realizing it, they allow fear to take control during the very first moments of the day. And when this happens day after day, it eventually begins to feel normal. But that is not the life God created you to live. The Bible reveals a God who continually calls his children to live guided by faith, wisdom, and hope. That does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to let your present reality permanently determine your future. Napoleon Hill discovered something remarkably similar while studying hundreds of successful people. He realized they all cultivated a clear purpose long before they experienced visible success. First, they carried a vision within themselves. Then that vision guided their decisions. Only afterward did the results begin to appear. This happens because no one confidently walks toward a destination they have never chosen. The mind needs direction. It needs purpose. It needs to know where it is going. Otherwise, it spends each day merely reacting to whatever happens. Perhaps today you are facing financial difficulties. Perhaps you are searching for a career opportunity. Perhaps you are waiting for an answer that has not yet arrived. Or perhaps you simply feel that you work hard but remain stuck in the same place. Whatever your situation may be, there is one decision that no one can make for you. No one can choose the thoughts that will occupy your mind every morning. That choice belongs to you alone. And that choice can completely change how you will live the months ahead. Not because positive thinking solves everything, but because right thinking produces wiser decisions. And wiser decisions create a different life. Over the next few minutes, you will discover timeless principles that have endured through generations because they continue to work. These are not promises of instant wealth. They are not shortcuts. They are principles of mental discipline, faith, personal responsibility, and consistent action. Principles that challenge every person to take control of their own mind before the world does it for them. Perhaps this video did not find you by accident. Perhaps today is the beginning of a new way of waking up, a new way of thinking, and, as a result, a new way of building your future. What you feed your mind when you wake up shapes the rest of your day. Have you ever noticed how 2 days can begin exactly the same way and end in completely different ways? 2 people wake up at the same time. Both have the same 24 hours available. They face similar challenges, go to work, meet people, and make decisions. Yet by the end of the day, one feels they have made progress, while the other ends the day even more exhausted, frustrated, and discouraged. What explains the difference? Most of the time, it is not their circumstances. It is the condition of their minds. The way you begin your morning directly influences how you interpret everything that happens throughout the rest of the day. Not because there is some magical power in the early hours, but because your mind works like a filter. It selects what it will focus on. Imagine someone buying a car in a particular color. Before making that purchase, they hardly ever notice that model on the road. But suddenly, it seems to be everywhere. The car was always there. What changed was their focus. The same is true with opportunities. When your mind is trained to see only limitations, you will find obstacles in every direction. A small setback becomes proof that nothing will ever work out. One closed door feels like the end of the journey. A delay becomes enough reason to give up. But when you develop a mindset prepared for growth, something extraordinary begins to happen. The same challenges still exist, but instead of dwelling on problems, you begin searching for solutions. This shift may seem small, but it completely changes the direction of your life. Napoleon Hill taught that a definite purpose strengthens the mind in the face of adversity. People who know where they are going do not allow every obstacle to determine the outcome of their journey. They understand that challenges are part of the process of growth. That does not mean ignoring pain, nor does it mean pretending everything is perfect. It means deciding that every difficulty will become a lesson rather than an excuse to abandon your dream. The Bible illustrates this principle again and again. Joseph was sold by his own brothers before becoming governor of Egypt. David endured years of persecution before taking the throne. Nehemiah faced fierce opposition while rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. In every one of these stories, the problem did not determine the destination. The response to the problem made all the difference. And that response always began in the mind. Perhaps you are waiting for your life to change when an extraordinary opportunity appears. But many times, God presents small opportunities that can only be recognized by those who are prepared. A conversation, an idea, a book, an unexpected connection, a forgotten skill, a door that seems insignificant. Life's greatest transformations rarely begin in dramatic ways. They begin quietly. That is why it is so important to prepare your mind before facing the rest of the day. While many people begin their mornings feeding anxiety, you can choose to feed your mind with purpose and direction. While many begin the day complaining about what they do not yet have, you can begin by thanking God for what He has already placed in your hands. Gratitude does not eliminate challenges, but it completely changes the way you face them. It reminds your heart that God is still present, even when the answers have not yet arrived. It prevents a mindset of scarcity from taking control of your thoughts. And above all, it strengthens your confidence that there are still paths ahead that you may not be able to see today. Another important principle taught by Napoleon Hill is that desire must walk hand in hand with decision. Many people desire prosperity. Few decide to live each day like someone truly committed to achieving it. There is a tremendous difference between wanting to change and building the habits that create change. Real transformation happens when small decisions are repeated consistently every single day. That is why the first hour of your morning deserves such careful attention. It serves as the foundation of a building. When the foundation is strong, the entire structure gains stability. But when the beginning of the day is ruled by haste, fear, and disorder, the rest of the day is unlikely to be any different. Before checking the news, before replying to messages, and before allowing the world to claim your attention, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Thank God for the gift of a new day. Remember the purpose you are committed to building. Commit your plans to the Lord and ask Him for the wisdom to recognize the opportunities He places before you. This small habit may seem simple, but it is precisely these simple practices, repeated consistently over time, that produce life's greatest transformations. True wealth begins with the way you think. There is a question that few people ever ask themselves, yet it may reveal why so many remain stuck in the same place for years. Who is directing your life, your goals, or your circumstances? Take a moment to think about it. How many decisions have you made this week because you truly believed they were the best choices? And how many were made simply out of fear, insecurity, or the feeling that there was no other option? Napoleon Hill observed that most people do not fail because they lack intelligence or ability. They fail because they allow fear to make their decisions. The fear of trying, the fear of losing, the fear of being criticized, the fear of starting over. When these thoughts begin to dominate the mind, a person builds an invisible prison. They continue working, dreaming, and making plans, but every decision becomes limited by what they believe is impossible. It is like standing before a wide-open door while refusing to look anywhere except the walls surrounding it. The opportunities are there, but your eyes have been trained to see only obstacles. That is exactly why inner transformation must come before outward transformation. The book of Proverbs declares, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." This verse reveals a profound truth. You may move to a new city. You may change careers. You may increase your income. But if you continue carrying the same mindset of scarcity, insecurity, and defeat, you will eventually recreate the same results wherever you go. Because your outward life often reflects what dominates your inner life. That does not mean everything depends solely on your thoughts. It means your thoughts directly influence your decisions, and the decisions you repeat every day shape your future. Think of a farmer. Before expecting a harvest, the farmer prepares the soil. No one plants seeds in neglected ground expecting an abundant crop. In the same way, God has given us the responsibility of cultivating the soil of our minds. Every day, seeds are planted there. The question is, who is choosing those seeds? Is it the news? Criticism? Fear? Comparison? Or is it you, guided by the Word of God, by hope, and by a clearly defined purpose? This choice may seem small, but it determines the direction of your thoughts throughout the entire day. Napoleon Hill often taught that genuine desire must be accompanied by unwavering commitment. It is not enough to say, "I would like to prosper." You must make a commitment to yourself. A commitment to keep learning, to take wiser action, to develop new skills, to serve others with excellence, to remain steadfast even when the results have not yet appeared. This is a point many people overlook. They want to harvest what they have not yet taken the time to cultivate. Nature does not work that way. Neither does life. Every mighty tree began as an invisible seed. For a long time, no visible growth can be seen. While everyone looks only at the surface, the roots are quietly growing stronger beneath the ground. Life works exactly the same way. There are seasons when God is strengthening your character before expanding your influence. He is developing your discipline before increasing your responsibilities. He is preparing your mind before entrusting you with greater opportunities. If you give up during that process, you may walk away from the very ground where your next harvest was about to begin. So never despise the days when it seems that nothing is happening. The invisible almost always comes before the visible. Preparation almost always comes before achievement. And perseverance almost always comes before the reward. Perhaps this is exactly the season you are living through. You pray. You work. You learn. You give your best. Yet you still do not see major changes. Do not conclude from this that God has forgotten you. And do not believe that your efforts are being wasted. Great buildings require deep foundations. And God never builds anything superficially that He intends to make last. Keep feeding your mind with hope. Keep learning. Keep developing your abilities. Keep trusting that every step you take today is preparing the path for what is coming tomorrow. Because when the mind matures, opportunities are no longer wasted. And when character grows alongside your dreams, Prosperity is no longer merely a desire, it becomes the natural result of a life built upon solid principles. The words you repeat are building your future. Have you ever noticed that there is a voice speaking to you all the time? It does not come from another person. It is not loud. Yet it is with you from the moment you wake up until the moment you close your eyes at night. It is your inner dialogue. And although it often goes unnoticed, it influences nearly every decision you make. Before you accept a challenge, that voice tells you whether you can succeed or not. Before you begin a new project, it reminds you either of your past failures or of your future possibilities. Even before anyone else says a word about you, that voice has already formed an opinion about who you are. Napoleon Hill understood that this inner conversation has tremendous power over the direction of a person's life. That is why he taught that the mind must be trained intentionally. Otherwise, it will be ruled by fear, negative experiences, and the opinions that other people have planted in it over the years. Think for a moment. How many times have you said things like, "I'm never lucky. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm always left behind. Maybe I'm just not capable." At first, they seem like nothing more than words. Then they become recurring thoughts. Over time, they turn into beliefs. And eventually, those beliefs begin directing your actions. This is exactly where so many people unknowingly limit their own future. The Bible teaches that death and life are in the power of the tongue. While this truth certainly applies to the words we speak to others, it also challenges us to consider what we continually say to ourselves. A person who constantly feeds their mind with thoughts of defeat will rarely have the courage to seize opportunities when they appear. Not because God has stopped opening doors, but because fear makes every door seem too large to walk through. On the other hand, someone who strengthens their mind with words of hope gradually develops the confidence to act when the right moment arrives. This does not mean repeating empty affirmations while expecting everything to happen automatically. Words alone do not change reality, but they shape the way you interpret reality. And that interpretation directly influences your decisions. Think about an athlete. Before a major competition, they do not spend hours telling themselves they are going to fail. They prepare. They train. They correct their mistakes. And they build their confidence. That confidence does not replace hard work. It fuels hard work. Life works the very same way. When you strengthen your mind with truth, you begin to act differently. You prepare more thoroughly. You learn more consistently. You persevere longer. You get back up after every fall. You keep moving forward when many others have already given up. That is why your words must always be aligned with your actions. Napoleon Hill never taught that simply wishing for wealth would produce success without effort. On the contrary, he emphasized planning, persistence, discipline, continuous learning, and serving others. Autosuggestion works when it strengthens a mind that is fully committed to taking consistent action. That is why, as you begin each new day, choose carefully what you allow to fill your thoughts. Instead of repeating what fear is telling you, remember the promises of God. Instead of feeding the belief that you will never succeed, remember how many times the Lord empowered ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. Moses believed he could not speak well. Jeremiah believed he was too young. Gideon considered himself the least important member of his family. Peter failed many times before becoming one of the greatest leaders of the early church. God has never chosen perfect people. He has always chosen people who are willing to trust Him, learn, and remain faithful. Perhaps you are not yet where you want to be, but that does not mean you will remain where you are forever. Keep preparing your mind. Keep strengthening your faith. Keep learning. Because every great transformation begins long before it becomes visible. It begins the moment a person decides that fear will no longer have the final word. And when that decision is renewed every single day, a new story begins to be written. Gratitude changes the way you see life. There is a habit shared by nearly everyone who lives in constant discouragement, even when they still have reasons to keep moving forward. They have trained themselves to focus first on what they lack. Not enough money. Not enough recognition. Not enough time. Not enough opportunities. Not enough support. As the years pass, this way of thinking becomes so natural that they stop noticing everything they have already received. And when the mind becomes accustomed to seeing only scarcity, it loses the ability to recognize the opportunities God places before it. Napoleon Hill observed that truly successful people shared one important characteristic. They appreciated what they already had while continuing to work toward what they still hoped to achieve. That attitude was not complacency. It was maturity. Because there is a tremendous difference between being grateful for the present and giving up on the future. Gratitude does not prevent growth. It prevents anxiety from controlling your journey. We live in a world that constantly encourages comparison. It only takes a few minutes on social media to find someone traveling, buying something new, advancing in their career, or living what appears to be a perfect life. Without realizing it, many people begin measuring the value of their own lives by the accomplishments of others. And that comparison creates constant dissatisfaction. The problem is that you only see the visible part of their story. You do not see their struggles. You do not know their fears. You do not see the sacrifices they made to get where they are today. Comparison will always be unfair because it compares the backstage of your life with the highlight reel of someone else's. The Bible repeatedly teaches the power of gratitude. Jesus gave thanks before multiplying the loaves of bread. Paul encouraged believers to give thanks in every circumstance. David continually reminded himself of the countless blessings he had received from the Lord. Notice that gratitude came before the miracle, not only after it. That reveals a profound principle. Those who learn to be thankful for little develop a heart prepared to manage much. Because prosperity does not begin when resources increase. It begins when character matures. Imagine two people receiving exactly the same opportunity. One complains about everything. They are never satisfied. They always believe they deserve more without first giving their very best. The other works with excellence, honors every commitment, keeps learning, and thanks God for every door He opens. Which one do you believe is better prepared to receive greater responsibility? The answer seems obvious. God is not only looking for capable people, He is looking for faithful people. Jesus taught this principle when He declared that whoever is faithful with little will also be faithful with much. That applies to resources, time, relationships, and opportunities. Before wishing for a greater position, ask yourself whether you have been taking good care of what God has already placed in your hands. Have you been managing your time wisely? Have you been developing your talents? Have you been treating people with respect? Have you been growing in wisdom? Or are you simply waiting for a great opportunity before deciding to live differently? Napoleon Hill said that success is attracted by the person you become. That statement invites deep reflection. Perhaps God is using this very season of your life to shape the person who will be able to sustain the blessings you have been praying for. Because achieving something is important. But remaining successful requires character. That is why gratitude strengthens the mind so deeply. It reminds us that God is still at work even when we cannot yet see the finished masterpiece. It keeps the heart from being consumed by anxiety. It strengthens hope. And hope produces perseverance. Perhaps your life today is not yet what you imagined it would be. But take a moment to look back. How many situations once seemed impossible, yet God faithfully brought you through them? How many doors were opened at exactly the right time? How many times were you protected without even realizing it? When we remember God's faithfulness in the past, we find the strength to trust Him again in the present. That trust does not eliminate hard work. It gives purpose to hard work. It does not remove challenges. It gives us the courage to face them. Gratitude transforms the way we walk through life. And a person who learns to walk with gratitude is rarely defeated by discouragement. Because they understand that every new day is another opportunity to grow, to learn, and to partner with what God is building in their life. Without a clear purpose, you will always be putting out fires. There is a huge difference between being busy and making progress. Unfortunately, many people confuse the two. They wake up early, work all day, solve problems, answer messages, fulfill commitments, and reach the end of the day completely exhausted. Yet, when they look back, they feel as though they are still standing in exactly the same place. It is not a lack of effort. It is not a lack of intelligence. Most of the time, it is a lack of direction. After interviewing hundreds of highly successful people, Napoleon Hill discovered that one of their most defining characteristics was having a clearly defined purpose. They knew why they were doing what they did. Every decision was evaluated in light of a greater objective. While most people simply reacted to whatever happened around them, these individuals consciously chose the direction they wanted their lives to take. That principle remains just as true today. Imagine a ship sailing across the open sea. Even when facing powerful winds, towering waves, and violent storms, it continues moving forward because it has a destination. Now imagine that same ship with no course at all. Any current can carry it anywhere. Life works the same way. Those who never define a purpose eventually begin living according to everyone else's priorities. They chase emergencies that are not their own. They spend energy on arguments that add no value. They accept distractions that steal precious time. And before they realize it, the years have slipped away. The Bible repeatedly shows us people who remained steadfast because they knew the mission God had given them. Noah spent decades building the ark without seeing a single sign of rain. Abraham continued walking, sustained by a promise he had not yet seen fulfilled. Nehemiah endured criticism, ridicule, and opposition because his purpose was greater than the obstacles standing before him. They all shared one thing in common. They refused to let their circumstances replace their purpose. This is one of the greatest challenges of our generation. We live surrounded by distractions. Our phones constantly buzz. Social media competes for our attention. The news never stops. There is always something trying to occupy our minds. If you do not intentionally decide where your focus belongs, someone else will make that decision for you. And whatever consistently receives your attention eventually begins shaping your life. Napoleon Hill taught that the mind functions at its best when it has a specific target. When you know exactly where you are going, it becomes much easier to say no to everything that merely wastes your time. You begin to understand that not every opportunity deserves your energy. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every offer deserves your commitment. Successful people do not try to do everything. They learn to do what truly matters. Jesus demonstrated this principle throughout his ministry. Crowds surrounded him. Needs were everywhere. Expectations were endless. Yet he never lost sight of the mission his Father had entrusted to him. That teaches us an important truth. Those who live to please everyone rarely fulfill their true purpose. There comes a moment when you must choose between pleasing people and remaining faithful to the calling God has placed on your heart. That choice is not always easy, but it is necessary. Perhaps you are living through that very season right now. You feel as though you work endlessly, yet very little seems to change. Perhaps your energy is being consumed by activities that are not bringing you any closer to the future you hope to build. Ask yourself one honest question. Is what occupies most of my time building the future I desire, or is it simply keeping me busy? That question may seem simple, but it has the power to completely change the way you live. Every day is an investment. Time, once spent, never returns. That is why you should treat your hours as one of the most valuable resources God has placed in your hands. Invest in knowledge. Develop your skills. Strengthen your relationships. Nurture your fellowship with God. And above all, keep your eyes fixed on the purpose He has planted in your heart. Because a person with purpose can endure delays without losing hope, can face criticism without abandoning their mission, can walk through hardship without forgetting where they are headed. Purpose functions like a compass. It does not remove the storms, but it keeps you from getting lost in them. And when purpose, faith, and discipline walk together, progress no longer depends on circumstances. It becomes the natural result of consistent decisions made day after day. Persistence is the test that separates those who wish from those who truly believe. There comes a moment in every person's life when the initial excitement begins to fade. At first, everything seems possible. The ideas are inspiring. Motivation is high. Dreams feel within reach. But after a while, obstacles begin to appear. Answers take longer than expected. Results do not come as quickly as hoped. And it is precisely at that point that many people give up. Not because they lack ability, but because they mistake delay for failure. Napoleon Hill taught that one of the greatest differences between ordinary people and those who achieve extraordinary success is persistence. He discovered that success rarely belongs to the most talented person. More often, it belongs to the one who keeps moving forward long after everyone else has decided to quit. This same truth is found throughout the Word of God. Abraham waited many years before seeing the fulfillment of God's promise. Joseph endured years of injustice before stepping into the position God had prepared for him. David was anointed to be king, yet he continued to face persecution and hardship before he ever sat on the throne. If they had given up during the season of waiting, they would never have lived to see the season of fulfillment. That teaches us something profound. The season of preparation is never a season wasted. Even when everything seems quiet, God is still at work. While you wait, He strengthens your faith. While you face difficulties, He shapes your character. While doors appear to remain closed, He is developing the maturity you will need to sustain the blessings that are still ahead. Unfortunately, we live in a generation that has become accustomed to immediate results. We want success quickly. We want recognition quickly. We want growth quickly. But the most valuable things in life do not grow that way. A tree does not bear fruit the day it is planted. A house is not completed the day its foundation is laid. In the same way, God works through processes. And those who learn to respect the process are rarely defeated by anxiety. Napoleon Hill noticed one important characteristic in persistent people. They did not ignore failure. They learned from it. Every mistake became a lesson. Every hardship revealed something that needed improvement. Every obstacle became an opportunity to grow. While many people asked, "Why did this happen to me?" they asked instead, "What is this situation trying to teach me?" That simple shift in perspective completely changes the way we face life's challenges. Because those who seek wisdom never leave a difficult season empty-handed. Even when they lose something, they gain experience. Even when a plan fails, they discover a path they should never repeat. Even when one door closes, they develop the maturity to recognize the next one when it opens. This is exactly what the Bible teaches when it says that all things work together for the good of those who love God. That does not mean all things are good. It means God is able to use even the hardest moments to produce growth. Perhaps today you are living through a season where it feels as though nothing is happening. You are doing your part. You pray. You work. You learn. Yet the answer has not arrived. In moments like these, remember something important. A farmer does not dig up the seed every day just to see if it is growing. He continues caring for the soil. He keeps watering it. He continues trusting the process. Because he knows that what is happening beneath the surface is just as important as what will one day appear above it. Your life also has invisible seasons of growth. There are changes God is working within you that no one else can see. Perhaps you cannot fully see them yet either. But when the right time comes, those deep roots will produce fruit that will last. So do not allow a delay to make you abandon your purpose. Do not let criticism make you forget who God says you are. Do not allow a temporary failure to define your identity. You are not the mistake you made. You are not the hardship you faced. You are not the opinions of other people. Your story is still being written. And as long as God is still writing it, there is still hope. Keep moving forward. Keep learning. Keep improving what has been placed in your hands. Because persistence is not simply doing the same thing over and over again. Persistence is continuing to grow while you wait. It is remaining faithful even when the results have not yet appeared. It is trusting that God is preparing something far greater than you can see at this moment. And many times, the greatest victory is not gaining something new. It is becoming the person who will be able to steward that blessing with wisdom, humility, and gratitude. You become like what you choose to listen to every day. There is a truth that many people discover far too late. You are not influenced only by the people you talk to. You are also influenced by the ideas you allow to remain in your mind. Every book you read, every video you watch, every conversation you entertain, every thought you accept without questioning. Little by little, all of these things are shaping the person you are becoming. Napoleon Hill recognized this principle while studying great leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs. They were extremely careful about what occupied their minds. Not because they isolated themselves from reality, but because they understood that a mind constantly fed with pessimism eventually loses the ability to recognize possibilities. The mind works like a garden. If you do not choose what to plant, weeds will grow naturally. In the same way, if you do not intentionally feed your mind with knowledge, hope, and wisdom, it will automatically become filled with fear, doubt, and anxiety. And this happens so quietly that you often do not even notice it. Just pay attention to some of the conversations around you. Some people talk only about problems. They complain about everything. They criticize those who are trying to grow. They always find another reason to believe that nothing will ever work out. When you constantly surround yourself with that kind of environment, you gradually begin to see the world through the same lens. Without realizing it, your courage begins to fade. Your creativity weakens. Your hope starts to disappear. And the dreams that once seemed possible begin to feel unreachable. That is exactly why the Bible says, "Bad company corrupts good character." This teaching goes far beyond friendship. It is about influence. Because every influence creates a direction. Look at Jesus. Even though he was surrounded by crowds, he carefully chose those who would walk closest to him. Among hundreds of followers, there were 12 disciples. Among those 12, there were 3 who shared his most intimate moments. This teaches us that not everyone should have access to the center of your life. And that is not pride. It is wisdom. Not every piece of advice should be followed. Not every opinion deserves to be accepted. Not every criticism deserves a place in your heart. There is a tremendous difference between listening to someone and allowing that person to shape the way you think. Perhaps one of the reasons you have struggled to move forward is not a lack of ability. Perhaps it is an overload of voices. You listen to people who have never built anything telling you that your dreams are too big. You listen to people who gave up trying to convince you to give up as well. You listen to people who have lost hope insisting that hope is worthless. And little by little, those words begin to sound like the truth. Napoleon Hill taught that every great achievement begins as a carefully protected idea. In the beginning, a dream is fragile. It is still growing. It has not yet produced results that prove it will succeed. That is why it must be nourished by faith, learning, and perseverance. If you continually expose that dream to negative people, you risk allowing it to die before it ever has the chance to mature. This does not mean living in isolation. It means choosing wisely who will have influence over your most important decisions. Ask yourself, do the people closest to me strengthen my faith, or do they strengthen my fears? Do they encourage me to grow, or do they always find reasons for me to remain where I am? Do they draw me closer to God, or do they weaken my spiritual walk? These questions may be difficult, but answering them honestly can completely change the direction of your life. At the same time, remember another important truth. You also influence other people. Your words can strengthen someone. Your example can inspire an entire family. Your perseverance can give courage to someone who was ready to give up. That is why God calls us to be the light of the world. Light does not make noise. It simply shines. In the same way, a life built upon true principles influences others far more through actions than through speeches. Choose to feed your mind each day with what produces growth. Read good books. Study the Word of God. Learn new skills. Spend time with people who challenge you to become better. And above all, keep your heart sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit. Because when God's voice becomes louder than the voice of fear, you begin to walk with a confidence that does not depend on circumstances. And that confidence is strong enough to sustain you even on the days when everything around you seems uncertain. Your future is built by the decisions you make today. Throughout this journey, you have discovered that great transformations do not happen by accident. They begin when a person chooses to take responsibility for their own mind. Not for their circumstances. Not for their past. not for the opinions of others, but for the direction they choose to follow every single day. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson Napoleon Hill left behind. Success does not happen all at once. It is built day by day through small decisions that, taken individually, may seem insignificant, but over the years completely transform a person's life. Think about the construction of a building. No one looks at a towering structure and imagines that it appeared overnight. First came the blueprint, then the foundation, then one brick after another. For a long time, anyone passing by would see nothing but concrete, dust, and hard work. Very few could envision the beauty that would one day stand there when everything was complete. Your life works exactly the same way. Perhaps today you are still in the foundation stage. You are learning. You are developing discipline. You are strengthening your faith. You are gaining knowledge. And because of that, it may seem as though nothing extraordinary is happening. But do not be deceived. The greatest results of your life will be the outcome of what you are building today, even if you cannot yet see it. The Bible teaches us never to despise small beginnings. That teaching makes perfect sense. We live in a culture that celebrates only the finished results. Everyone wants to be present at harvest time. Very few are willing to embrace the quiet season of preparation. But God works differently. He usually prepares the person before he provides the opportunity. Because an opportunity received before maturity can become a burden too heavy to carry. That was true for Joseph. Before governing an entire nation, he learned to manage Potiphar's household. Then he managed the prison. Only afterward was he entrusted with the responsibility of overseeing Egypt. Every stage was part of his preparation. Nothing was wasted. Perhaps you are living through one of those stages right now. You wish everything would happen more quickly. You long for immediate answers. You hope your dreams will become reality this very year. There is nothing wrong with wanting those things. The problem begins when impatience causes us to abandon the process. Napoleon Hill believed that opportunity often comes disguised as hard work, discipline, and perseverance. Perhaps that is why so many people allow great opportunities to slip away. They are searching for something extraordinary while God is working through what appears to be ordinary. A task completed with excellence. A meaningful conversation. A new lesson learned. A small open door. A humble beginning. It is within those ordinary moments that the future is quietly being built. So never underestimate the value of the choices you make today. Every book you choose to read. Every skill you choose to develop. Every minute invested in learning. Every prayer whispered in silence. Every act of integrity when no one else is watching. All of these things are shaping the person you will become in the years ahead. The world usually values only what can be seen. God values what takes place within the heart. Because He knows that genuine transformation always begins on the inside. When your character grows, your decisions begin to change. When your decisions change, your habits change. And when your habits change, your life inevitably begins moving in a new direction. Perhaps this is the message you needed to hear today. Stop waiting for a great change to happen around you first. Begin by allowing God to transform what is within you. Guard your mind. Nourish your faith. Develop discipline. Keep learning. Keep serving. Keep trusting. Because no seed blooms on the same day it is planted. But every healthy seed, when nurtured with care and perseverance, bears fruit at the right time. Perhaps you cannot yet see that fruit. But that does not mean it is not already growing. Trust the process. Trust the direction God is leading your life. And remember that your future will not be determined by the fears you have faced, but by the decisions you chose to make in spite of them. Today may seem like just another ordinary day, but it can also become the day you decided to think differently, to act differently, and because of that, to begin living a different story. May God strengthen your mind, renew your hope, and guide every step of your journey. Because when a mind is guided by faith, sustained by discipline, and aligned with timeless principles, there is no challenge great enough to stop the purpose God has prepared for it. If this message spoke to your heart, do not let it end here. Put at least one of these principles into practice today. Share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope and strengthen their mind. And write in the comments a declaration of commitment. Today I choose to renew my mind and trust in God's purpose. This simple act may become the beginning of a transformation that reaches far beyond what you can imagine. May God bless your life and guide every step of your journey.